Victorian cafes, restaurants and the dining areas in pubs will reopen from the 1st of June. Venues will initially be able to have a maximum of 20 people indoors, with that number gradually increasing. Reporter Nicole Asher joins us now live from Melbourne. So Nicole, what is the latest though on coronavirus cases across the state, and in particular those two clusters at Cedar Meats and the McDonald's restaurant?
So since yesterday, there have been another 7 cases of coronavirus confirmed in Victoria. That brings the state total to 1,561 confirmed cases. 2 new cases have been linked to that Cedar Meats abattoir cluster. However, we do know that that abattoir is aiming to start gradually reopening next week, but with very limited staffing in place. Now, across Victoria, there are 11 people in hospital at the moment with the virus, and 7 of those people are in intensive care.
And Nicole, Victorians looking forward to some more freedom in a couple of weeks' time. So what has the Premier outlined there?
That's right. I think this is the big news that's got everyone excited today. So we've been told that pubs, clubs and restaurants will be able to reopen, but in a very staged fashion from the 1st of June. So the first phase will be 20 patrons will be allowed in kind of each enclosed area within a venue. So if there's kind of 2 rooms in a pub, I suppose they'll be able to have 20 in each. From the 22nd of June, we'll move on to phase 2, and those numbers will increase to 50. So life will be feeling a little bit more back to normal at that point. And by the end of July, they're aiming for up to 100 people in these spaces. However, the Premier has said that people will have to give identifying details, so their names, their phone numbers, their addresses, in case there is a coronavirus case linked to one of those venues, so people can then be tracked down. He's also said there'll be very strict rules regarding the openings and how people will be allowed to be served. Here's what he had to say earlier.
It is a long and extensive set of rules in terms of social distancing, 1.5 metre spacing, cleaning, a screening of staff to make sure that they don't have any symptoms. All of those protocols are being worked through with industry. All of those protocols, those rules are critically important. This will only work if those who are going out to a cafe or going out for a meal at a restaurant or going to the bistro in a pub actually follow those rules, do the right thing, take these things seriously.
Daniel Andrews there. And Nicole, we know Victoria has been undertaking a testing blitz. What has the Health Minister had to say about that today?
So we've heard that over 200,000 Victorians have now been tested for the virus. They've been going to the swabbing clinics, some of which are still set up at shopping centre car parks around the state. Now, we have been warned that if people don't continue to get tested, or if these testing rates, I guess, prove or show some worrying decline in our good rates of coronavirus, then some of these freedoms we're getting promised may have to be scaled back. But here's what the Health Minister said earlier.
So we now have the highest per capita testing rate in the country at 5,102 per 100,000 people. So by Victorians presenting in those record numbers, we've now been able to analyse 233,000 tests. And it's important to stress that by making it very easy for Victorians to go along to one of the pop-up retail sites, we've had Victorians presenting in record numbers, and I want to thank them for doing so.
So that was the Health Minister describing just the state of the situation, meaning that we have been able to have these restrictions start to be relaxed a bit more today. Now, they have been very careful to say that if people don't keep following the rules and taking precautions, then these freedoms could be rolled back. And it will be some time still before people are allowed to just go into the pub for a beer. They've been very careful to say that it'll be for meals, so you can have a beer with your meal, but front bars won't be open for some time yet.
Slow and steady does it. Our reporter Nicole Asher there from Melbourne. Queensland has recorded no new cases of coronavirus overnight. 12 cases remain active in the state. More than 200 tests of staff and residents of an aged care facility in Rockhampton have tested negative for the virus. Last week, a nurse at the centre tested positive. So far, 235 people at the home have tested negative.
We are very relieved with the news that we are hearing at the moment, But once again, we're still urging people in Rockhampton, if they have any symptoms, to please go and get tested, because we want to just absolutely make sure that everything is under control. Our rapid response unit is working incredibly well. We've been planning for this and it worked like clockwork.
Brazil has recorded almost 15,000 new cases of COVID-19 in the past 24 hours to become the fourth worst affected nation in the world. The South American nation has now registered over 233,000 cases, behind only the United States, Russia and the United Kingdom. 816 people died in the past 24 hours, bringing the total to more than 15,600. President Jair Bolsanaro has appointed a military general as interim health minister following the resignation of his predecessor. Kenya has announced its borders with neighbouring Somalia and Tanzania will be closed as the country continues to battle the coronavirus outbreak. President Uhuru Kenyatta says the border will only be open to freight and drivers will have to undergo tests before entering. Kenya's crossings with South Sudan, Uganda and Ethiopia are not affected, as those countries have recorded fewer COVID-19 infections. Italy's government has signed a decree that will allow travel to and from the country from the 3rd of June as it moves to ease its coronavirus lockdown measures. Italy was the first country to impose a nationwide lockdown 10 weeks ago in early March, but the economic impact has been crippling. The government says that from Monday, restaurants, bars and hairdressers will be allowed to reopen. Greeks have flocked to newly reopened beaches as the government eases coronavirus restrictions. Drones and loudspeakers enforced strict social distancing between beachgoers. The reopening of 500 beaches across the country coincided with the first heat wave of the year. Greece is attempting to manage the virus while catering for the millions of tourists who visit each summer. The country of 11 million derives 20% of its income from tourism. It suffered nearly 3,000 infections and 160 deaths, far fewer than nearby countries.